My English was broken. My pockets were almost empty. I had 2 kids in a suitcase. I promised them one thing. We would never go hungry again. 6 years later, the whole neighborhood lines up outside my door. Not for food, but for hope. The air smelled like frying garlic and hope. Maria tightened the scarf around her head, watched her daughter sleep, and counted $20 in a cracked wallet. She had left everything familiar. A home, an extended family, a life in which she knew how to survive. For a country where the language twisted on her tongue and a job could vanish overnight. This is the story of how one immigrant single mother turned fear into fuel, a tiny kitchen into a business, and a small act of courage into a community movement. It is a story about the slow, stubborn work of building, the moments nobody sees, and the way a single person can lift many. Maria arrived in the United States with 2 suitcases, 2 children, and a last name that strangers could not pronounce. She found a small apartment above a laundromat, where the hum of machines sang her to sleep. At first, she worked odd jobs, cleaning houses until midnight, babysitting, slicing vegetables in a tiny diner. She sent money home when she could, but most nights she folded into bed and worried about rent. Every day she wrote a list of things she wanted. A steady job, a safe home, school for her children, and under each item she wrote the smallest step she could take the next day. This tiny step list became her ritual. She learned new words slowly, listened for them in bus stops and grocery lines, and practiced asking for prices and directions until her voice stopped shaking. Her love for cooking came from memory and comfort. Maria would make food for neighbors, for the exhausted mother next door, for the janitor who worked nights. People began to ask, "Where did you learn to make this?" She smiled, shrugged, and packed extra in foil. The requests became regular. An English-speaking neighbor suggested she sell lunches to workers on the corner. Another friend lent her a second-hand warm box to keep food hot. The first day she sold 10 lunches. Maria earned $30. She celebrated like she had won the lottery. Because, for a woman who had once thought of being jobless forever, $30 meant groceries for a week. But success was fragile. Immigration papers, childcare, and inconsiderate landlords threatened to break everything. She slept less and worked more. She learned how to stretch rice and transform simple ingredients into flavors that reminded people of home. Maria used every small win to buy a small propane stove, then a cart, then a tiny space in a shared kitchen. Instead of trying to be all things, she chose one thing and made it excellent. A stew her mother taught her, a flatbread made late into the night, a spiced coffee that warmed the hands and the heart. Word spread not because of ads but because people returned. They brought friends, they told co-workers, and they posted simple photos on social media with words like real and love. When she finally leased a small corner shop, she painted the door a warm yellow and hung a handwritten sign that read, "Come in, you are welcome." The first month barely covered utilities. The second month she hired her sister from back home to help. The third month a local reporter walked in and asked about the unusual spices and a family photo taped to the wall. The article called it a taste of home in the middle of the city. Customers began arriving not only for food but for stories. As her business grew, Maria did something that surprised even her. She offered free meal vouchers to families who could not afford food, and she started a Saturday class teaching cooking and basic business math to other immigrant women. Those classes were chaotic and beautiful. Women arrived with broken English, with past traumas, with fear of trying anything new. Maria taught them how to knead dough and how to price a sandwich. She taught them to expect respect, to keep receipts, to ask for help when they needed it. Slowly, the classes became a community. A network of care formed around the shop. Child care swaps, language practice groups, and a volunteer who helped with marketing. But the path was not a straight climb. One winter, a bad storm flooded part of the shop. Insurance was delayed. The landlord argued. A loan officer rejected her first application for a small business loan. One morning, a competitor opened a flashy restaurant 3 blocks away and tried to copy her menu. Many nights Maria sat on the stoop and counted coins, asking herself if she had made a mistake by leaving everything behind. The twist was not dramatic, it was ordinary. Paperwork delays, missed payments, health scares, a stolen delivery. Each small disaster threatened to undo months of progress. She survived by leaning into people. The janitor who once received her meals fixed a leaky pipe. Customers organized a crowdfunding page that raised enough to buy new equipment. Women from her Saturday class opened a pop-up to help keep the shop afloat while repairs happened. The community that had grown around Maria's food became the hands that lifted the business when she stumbled. As she grew, Maria used the shop as a place of learning and integration. She hosted ESL nights, where anyone could practice conversation over tea. She invited local leaders to listen to the community's needs, and she began to sit on a small civic council focused on immigrant services. People who once passed her by on the bus came in to ask for advice. She learned how to write grant proposals, how to speak at a city meeting, and how to translate the pain of many into a simple ask for better services. Over time, the business became more than profit. It became a social anchor. Local schools arranged student visits to learn about food and culture. A nearby clinic used the shop to post health flyers and to organize free screenings on slow days. Maria's children, now teenagers, helped with social media and tutoring younger kids after school. The shop was a classroom, a job center, a place where language and recipes blended into something richer. Belonging. Halfway through the story, pause on a cliff. A loud knock at midnight. An eviction notice. The camera lingers on Maria's trembling hands. Will she lose everything? Then switch to the next morning, where neighbors gather signatures on a petition. Suddenly, the story is not only about one woman's fight, but about a small city learning what it means to value each other. Later, reveal a secret. The original recipe came from a neighbor who had lost her home. Maria had promised to honor her name. That revelation deepens the emotional payoff and shows how heritage threads through resilience. Describe the steam rising from a clay pot on a cold morning, the sound of coins hitting a wooden cash drawer, the bright sticky lemon on a plate, the scrawl of names on a donation board, the scent of cumin mixed with rain. These images bring scenes alive and make viewers feel present in each moment. Years later, Maria stands on a small stage at a community awards night. She does not give a speech about herself. Instead, she calls for a small change. A clearer path for small immigrant businesses to access city permits and language support. The camera cuts to faces in the crowd. The janitor, the reporter, the women from her class, her children. The final shot lingers on Maria closing the shop at dusk, turning the sign to closed, and watching a young mother pass a cup of warm soup through the window to an elderly neighbor. The narrator asks, "What would our neighborhoods be like if every person's small dream received just one helper?" The credits roll with a short list of practical ideas. Volunteer at an ESL class, support local immigrant businesses, learn one phrase in another person's language. Runtime, 8 to 12 minutes. Visuals. Close-ups of hands cooking, archival photos of Maria's arrival, B-roll of the neighborhood, interviews with customers, city officials, and Maria's children. Sound. Warm piano underscoring during reflective moments. A subtle crescendo during wins. Interviews. Maria, primary. 2 women from her Saturday classes, a local reporter, the janitor who helped during the flood, and 1 city official. B-roll. Busy morning lines, receipts being counted, the handwritten sign, community meetings, and the storm damage. Suggested scenes. Opening with a busy service rush, then cut to quiet nights counting money. Include on-screen captions for dates and key milestones. Use subtitles for non-English phrases to preserve authenticity. Small acts of courage, shared freely, can ripple outward and become community strength. When we invest in each other by teaching, sharing, or simply showing up, we make a better future possible for more than ourselves. End with a question that invites comments. Who in your neighborhood is quietly building something? Tag them below and tell us one way you can help. Then offer 2 simple next steps in the description. Links to local immigrant support organizations and a short PDF checklist for starting a small food business.